Hey everyone, Shawn Clement here at the beautiful Royal Quebec Golf Club in Quebec City, and for Wisdom in Golf, of course, and for Golf WRX. Our other location, of course, is at the Richmond Hill Golf Learning Center, and Paul Davies is at the helm over there. How you doing, Paul? Hope things are well. It was really nice to see you last week, and glad things are moving along beautifully for you guys. So today we're going to be talking about something that Paul is very familiar with. Paul is a backhander, and my left-handed swing is my backhand swing. And we're going to be talking about backhanders for the next little while. And many of you don't realize that a very high percentage of players on tour are playing with their lead hand as the dominant hand. Phil Mickelson is one of them. And so you'll notice he's right-hand dominant, throws with his right arm. He's got a beautiful throwing arm, by the way. But he plays to his backhand in golf. So it'd be like a backhand in tennis. And you'd be surprised at how many people much prefer the backhand in tennis than the forehand. So if you look at the right-handers that are lead-hand dominant, Sergio Garcia, Jordan Spieth, Henrik Stenson, that's a pretty extensive list, isn't it? So there are many more out there that we don't know about until we see them signing their autographs with their left hand or throwing a ball to the crowd with their left hand. Johnny Miller was one of them. And if you look at, it obviously still is, but it's not playing the tour anymore. Paul Azinger is also a backhander. So there are some analogies that work far better for the backhander than the forehander. And one of my favorites is if you had a sword or a machete and you wanted to slash through a bamboo shoot that was growing out of the ground with that lead arm. So imagine that bamboo shoot was growing out of my GC quad here, and I wanted to give it a good slash. So you notice how I'm turning my back slightly to that bamboo shoot so I can gather the heft of my swing, and I can use the heft of my swing to deliver through that bamboo shoot. If you had a hammer in your hands, and a beautiful analogy, the hammer. So if I wanted to pound a nail really hard into the side of this, let's say I had a door framer here. So notice how I'm going to get behind that hit, and it feels like I can really use the weight of the hammer to my advantage now, versus doing something like this. So notice if I had a weak grip, this is the kind of hammering I would do into the side of this door frame, versus this is hammering down. See the difference? Now it feels like I could just literally pound through there. And you notice how I'm behind the hit. And that's what we're trying to do right here. So for those of you who are playing to your backhand, so imagine you're hammering down on something. See how I got my neutral grip with a very close face and I can hammer down. And now I want to hammer through this way. So watch how I get behind. So you notice now it feels like I can really squeeze through the nail in that direction there. So that's me hammering down, and that's me hammering through. So notice that's why you'll see so many players. If you look at Paul Azinger, he had a massively strong grip. If he had a fifth knuckle, he'd put a fifth knuckle on that thing. So most of the players on tour are playing with a very strong grip because we're hammering in that direction. That's where the money is. So if you're trying to hammer toward the ball, well, you're going to have a significantly reduced amount of compression that you can apply to that ball. So if you had a frisbee in your hands, you want to sling a frisbee out there. Well, notice how I'm turning my whole backside so I can really sling that frisbee out there. So these are analogies that are really going to help you perform extremely well when it comes to playing on your backhand. So first things first, I'm going to pick a target and I'm going to pick a ball flight, a nice flight plan. So I'm going to do a little draw here. I'm lining up on my target on one of those stakes, and I'm playing the ball a hair back of center, and then I want to get behind the hit. So notice right now, it really feels like my lead side is ready to compress through that door frame. So I got my door frame right there, gather, and I'm compressing through the door frame. So nice solid contact. I got an 8-iron in my hands right now. We're looking at about 165 carry. That's my typical 8-iron. Nice little draw axis. About 17 degrees of launch. And notice how my approach is very much from the inside. But it wasn't significantly from the inside, was it? See? Lovely little draw, nothing crazy. So it feels like I'm behind the hit. There we go. Now, this doesn't mean, see, even though my shoulders are going way out to the left, it doesn't mean that my arm swing is going to go that way. So if we look at from down the line here, back with the hammer. So I'm hammering down. Notice how my body's nice and parallel. Now I'm hammering through. So notice how my lead shoulder gets a little forward, the trail shoulder back. Now it feels like I can really pound in there. Now you notice the takeaway of my hammer has nothing to do with the alignment of my shoulders. These work independently one from the other. So I have an arm swing that's driving into the side of this door frame here, and my body is responding to this arm swing and it's getting out of the way. Very much like when I have a frisbee. If I take my frisbee, notice the frisbee's moving towards you, but look at how my body's really turned out of the way. My frisbee's out here. Same thing when we were doing with the sword. So if I have my sword, I'm getting ready to slash the sword. So notice how my arm is in front of me, even though I'm turned well behind the ball. And there's your secret sauce. So it feels like I can really gather back here and give my sword a wonderful slash through there. So it feels very powerful and it feels very easy to perform. So I've got an intermediate point down here. I'm lining up straight over the intermediate point going toward that post, play the ball here back of center and get behind the ball. Now all I'm trying to do is release to the left edge of that intermediate point to start the ball a hair to the left and let it draw back toward the target. So I gather the sword and release the sword. Beautiful tight contact. 165 carry once again, 170 total. And there's that little draw again. So it started 4 degrees to the right, launch angle is 18 degrees. And if you look at the flight of that ball, pretty much a carbon copy of the other one. And so I'm basically peppering a nice little circle inside 15 feet of the flag. So very powerful and very easy to produce if that lead side is behind the hit. So that would be one of the major concerns for the backhander in getting set behind the ball and really feeling that you're getting behind the ball. So stay tuned for next week, where we're going to be explaining a little bit more in detail what that grip is all about as far as the lead hand dominant grip. And you can take a look at my grip. My 2 main grip videos are best video on grip ever. You're going to love that one. It's got over 300,000 hits and it's extremely well done. And the other one is Knife the Grip, which you're really going to enjoy as well. So have a look at those. That'll be a nice preview for next week. And in the meantime, as far as the lead hand stuff, look at Dominant Lead Hand Shawn Clement on YouTube. And you'll get a little more insight on how we're using that dominant lead side. So I hope you enjoyed that little insight. And we'll see you next week.